What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to talk about black knives because black knives matter. This was the second black knife. By black, I basically mean the scales, the hardware, and the blade are blacked out. This is the Spyderco PM3. I bought this 13 years ago. 12, at minimum 12 years ago, it might be 13 years ago, but the first black knife I actually had, I gave away. It was a Kershaw Blur that was fully blacked out, which had the speed safe system that was designed by Ken Onion, and it basically helped overcome the automatic laws, but it was assisted. Effectively, I think it was the first assisted knives. That one I had, 15, 17 years ago. I don't know, whenever that one was made, but that has been since gone. The PM3 was my first black knife. Is it a fully black knife because the compression lock and hardware of the lining of those is not black? I don't know. I think for the most part it is. Why a black knife? Well, for the most part, it's really for subtlety. You know, it doesn't basically attract attention, doesn't reflect. It also is... oftentimes the blades have DLC or Cerakote. Some could just have, well, I'm going to show one of them a little bit later. So those are things that can protect the blade. They can actually reduce the friction so that it actually can add to the cutting performance. Like I said, prevent oxidization in some cases. DLC is diamond-like carbon. Cerakote is ceramic coating cooked on. Then there's literally like, they're all essentially PVD, physical vapor dispersion, I think, but they're basically sprayed on in a sense and land on, and they're cooked, and they're usually very, very hard. So oftentimes when marks are left behind, this one doesn't have a whole lot. It's actually the material that you cut through leaves behind itself. So these are harder. I think DLC is, I don't know, like 69 HRC. So very, very hard. And you know what? It's just, they're kind of cool. Let's just admit that. You know, I'm not an operator, but if you were an operator, a black blade might actually be appropriate. I'm just going to rip through all the black blades that I have, starting with the second one. I'm going to do them somewhat in order of attainment, meaning when did I get this one? This one was 12 or 13 years ago. And my first one was 15, 17 years ago, the Kershaw Blur. This one, I loved it so much. It's a classic example of a knife on washers that after years and years of use just becomes drop shutty, and the action is literally indistinguishable from bearings. It literally is. I have never taken this knife apart. I've adjusted the pivot a little bit, blown air in there, alcohol, just cleaned it out, and dropped in some basically nano oil. So yeah, I did get a fully true blacked out one. This is the Crewwear one with the kind of knockdown G10. The funny thing is my G10 has been knocked down over all those years, but this is kind of like my Grail PM3 here. You can see that it has no action in a sense that you gotta shoot it. So PM3 is the first. I'm gonna rip through the rest of them in a lot of stop action, put the new one in, talk briefly about it, and then we'll move on. We'll try to get this done relatively quick because black knives matter. This is the Benchmade Bugout. Awesome Cerakoting. This is S30V steel. I have a nice mirror polish edge on that one. This is Sabrina's knife. It has great action just because it has truly been used a lot. This is a classic example of, you can see blemishes on the blade. That is not the Cerakote having come off. Those are aluminum. That's the result of aluminum cans and the aluminum itself sticking to the Cerakote surface. So, the Benchmade Bugout. This is the Kershaw Bareknuckle. It is, I think, probably one of the best USA-made knives overall. This knife definitely went up a little bit in cost. I don't even know if they still make it on. This one was done in 20 CV. I think this is Smoky Mountain Knife Works. It was model 7777, blacked out. This is actually the third one I have. This was the knife that I gave away to people. 14C28N was the default steel, and it is a flipper only, so no deployment, but it's just, the action is excellent. The aluminum frame is fantastic, and this is a subframe lock. So basically they go ahead and mount this kind of this locking mechanism, and it contains the detent ball into the aluminum frame. So this is going to be steel. It is excellent. The Kershaw Bareknuckle. This is the CiviviKnife Ortis. This was a great example of the use of FRN and almost masquerading it really well, especially since this one uses full steel liners. Well, full. They're actually pocketed out or milled out. But essentially, tough to tell the difference between these and G10. So Civivi nailed it on all fronts. Multiple deployments. Flipper, this nice little open hole here was fantastic. Yeah, so the CiviviKnife Ortis, this is a 9 CR18 MOV steel, very aggressive clip point blade, hollow ground, absolutely, really, truly excellent. CiviviKnife Ortis. This one is the Real Steel M5 Metamorph, designed, and this one is G10. Great texturing, kind of nice chamfering and offset milling on there. It's really kind of cool. This was the first front flipper I ever bought. It has a nice little backspacer there. It's crowned, very comfortable. Front flipper though, this took a lot of practice, and that's how I learned to front flip, was on this one, which is not an easy one, but it has a very aggressive in terms of small, super small carry, excellent. This was one of the first ones when I remember I posted my review of it, is Oh Stop Hell actually reviewed or watched my video. It was like, hey, thank you, I appreciate, you know, the things that you said. And so yeah, this is the Metamorph G5 from Real Steel. Oops, I forgot to do an earlier model. This is the KABAR BK7 fixed blade. This was my first fixed blade that was all black. You can kind of see it's not really all black. This has been taking on wood. This is a classic example of, this is not Cerakote, this is not DLC. This is essentially powder coating, which is essentially a high heat paint, literally, and you can kind of see the paint coming off on this one. But this was the first kind of hard use fixed blade that I used when I camped. Watched Gideon's Tactical, and kind of really loved the knife. My only complaint about it really would be that it doesn't need this ramp at all. If that were just basically flattened out, I think it would be just fine. Like the clip point, it does. It's kind of a good, you know, inexpensive beater upper. And yeah, made in the USA, the KABAR BK7. This is the ProTech SNG. Mixed strider design, obviously. ProTech automatic. This is the operator edition. You're going to notice, actually, one thing that's really cool about this, there's no laser etching for the name of the knife, the steel, the brand, or anything. The only thing that exists on this is a tritium light for in the dark use. But yeah, the ProTech strider, it is fantastic. The reason I went with this one, and I actually went ahead and traded Paul Solders, one of my others, I had two of these SNGs, is just because at the time you literally could not get a strider knife. They're kind of tough to get now, but now they're still, even on the used market, you're starting at $650. This was like a $250 knife. 154 cm steel. I used the prior one that I did the review on. Used the heck out of it, and I was like, okay, I agree. Pretty much everybody says that, you know, the number one thing is the comfort in hand. Yes, there's no comfort difference here between this and the actual SNG. So that's why I was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna go to 650, 750 for a knife. Yes, it has different materials, titanium, etc., but oftentimes those are titanium on the lock side and G10 on the other side. This one is all aluminum, automatic, the ProTech SNG. This is the Brian Nadeau designed, SharpByDesign? SharpByDesign? Yeah, SharpByDesign. Brian Nadeau, he utilizes Reate. This is the mini Tempest. This is probably the greatest front flipper ever. It was the first one where it was so easy to utilize my finger to do that. I said, oh my gosh, that is just so easy, as I missed there. It must be that this knife doesn't have a good detent with this nub, and therefore will shake out. No, it won't shake out. This was quite an incredible design. Yeah, this particular one is just so good. It actually has a little fuller there. The drop point blade. Oh man, one of the greatest possibly knives ever. This is definitely like a top 20 ever as the Mini Tempest. It's just the blade to handle ratio is so good. The multiple deployments, the top flipper being so easy. This is what I would train somebody on for, or front flipper. This is absolutely it. And Reate does an amazing job of really manufacturing this. Just fantastic. So yeah, this is the Tempest, the SharpByDesign Mini Tempest. This is the Reate K2, another Reate, two in a row. This particular one is just, I loved the I totally loved the traditional kind of Tonto design there, where it's just kind of rounded and it goes into a flat. This particular one has a, oh gosh, what's it called? Hollow grind frame lock. It is a flipper only, so that was the only thing. This, man, if I could just like have, you know, some deployment up here, but as a flipper goes, this is a really, really well made design. Yeah, so this particular knife, as kind of a, you know, pretend that you are a Japanese, not ninja warrior, but a Japanese, what are they called? I guess ninja warrior or whatever. And you want to have a very concealable black knife with a traditional Tonto blade. This might be it. The Reate K2. Studies and Observations Group Pentagon. This looks like a full dagger, but it is not. It is this side up here, the top side is not sharpened, but the little tip is. So the first 1/4 inch is, so it would behave certainly like a dagger. This is their particular axis lock. I forget the name of theirs, XR lock possibly, and it's a flipper and it has thumb studs. So this one I haven't done a full review on this because I haven't done a full carry. My big bitch and moan on this one was that it does have a just T6 for the pivot for maintenance. That was just a little bit crappy, but the action's really nice and smooth, not like super strong. I did find that that you could not shake this one out because I thought it was very weak in a sense, but their XR lock really works kind of well. And yeah, the Pentagon XR was pretty cool. The Hogue Compound OTF. I have beat the heck out of this one. This is a great example of, this one is, I will not say that this is DLC nor Cerakote. This is in fact just a blackening, like maybe a nitride black wash in a sense, or blackened compound, but it definitely is scratching down, or scratched down to the metal. I use the heck out of this one. Excellent OTF. You know, Hogue does a really good job of knife making. This was no exception. And my only kind of complaint about this one was the blackened blade. Basically just kind of yields fairly easily, even just to aluminum cans and other, you know, kind of slight metals. But for the most part, the Hogue Compound, definitely an overall great OTF. This is the Ketuo Soulstone, designed by Beard of Doom Kevin. I just bought this to support him. This, if you follow him, I'll link him below. I don't know if he still produces content, but he's been going through some life changes that are absolutely positive and fantastic. He designed this. If you watch his channel, this is quintessentially him. Fantasy inspired, huge, you know, built for gigantic hands. And yeah, this one, he went with Ketuo as the designer. Super thick blade stock. I've not done a full carry and not a full review on this particular one, but multiple deployments, excellent. I think, I can even do the top flip. And surprisingly, the detent's really good. With a 4-inch blade, it does not shake out, but yet you can still basically put your finger up there and do the front flip. So this is everything that a knife reviewer who has a fantasy inspiration would design 100%. And actually the coolest thing about this for me is I think it looks like a hand grenade. If you kind of take a look at that, it's actually built, if you take a look at these finger notches, it's built with your attitude adjuster right there, and the finger grooves fit nicely, and it does. But for me, I was just like, oh yeah. So Ketuo, Soulstone, BeardofDOOM, Kevin. Metal complex design. Oh gosh. Who is this? It starts with a K. Kunwu Knives Excalibur. Designed by Metal Complex himself. I don't know. Does it count as a black knife? It does have this Mokotai. I actually have the new one on order. This is an unusable pocket clip. Literally unusable. And when I was just going to go carry it, I literally cannot get this in my pocket. So I think that's not a surprise to anybody. This is where we enter into the fray of polished DLC. So it has a reflectivity to it, but in terms of definitely the reducing friction so that it slices and cuts through stuff, absolutely polished DLC is second to none. It's absolutely excellent. So yeah, everything other than the pocket clip on this knife is excellent. And so yeah, really, really good knife. But yeah, a future review will be coming out on that particular one. What's that called again? The Excalibur. The Excalibur. This is the Chapmanlake knives. Oh gosh, I forgot the name of it. 2D, 2L, Tonto. This is literally my 100% favorite full blacked out knife. It is a button lock, and you might say, why is that one not blacked out? All the other hardware is. There's actually a great thing they have on their Instagram or their website that talks about this steel for a couple of reasons. One is this providing the plunge for the lock should not have reduced friction. You want good friction on that particular one when it locks into the blade so that it doesn't basically bounce out. And there was another particular reason. It didn't make sense to everything else. No bannering of their product, the model, anything. This is just a gorgeous button lock knife. The Tonto blade, hollow ground, absolutely fantastic. This is, is that my first fantastic? I don't know. I think I'm sure to have had another one there, but this one is the perfect example of polished DLC and the hardware on it. It's just probably the absolute sexiest knife maybe I own. Is this particular one. I do look forward to a full carrying review of this one, and it will definitely have a full disassembly. I have disassembled this, and there's going to be something extremely interesting in there for most people to see that you won't have seen before on. I've never seen it on a knife, and I've handled probably 300 to 400. So I was like, oh, it's super interesting. I don't know if somebody else has already done it, but that one should be out, probably within the next probably month or two. Yeah, Chapman Knives. I forget the name of it. Maybe I'll flash it on screen. All right, my second fixed blade that is all black. This is the DBK Bushfriend 2000. Everything, including the sheath, is definitely black. Gotten some great use on this one at camp. Really, really good. I do believe this is a DLC of sorts, just because beat on this one through wood. Nothing scraping off and actually revealing any steel. So it'll be interesting when I kind of clean this one. Review will definitely be coming out by the end of the summer on this particular one. Really, really good. It's got rich light handles, which I love. It's basically paper micarta. It gets wet or bloody. It gets even stickier and better. The contouring is excellent. I think Mickey and Martin just have kind of a little bit smaller hands than me, and so they prefer a little bit thinner one handle. I like the Bark River sized handles, which are a little bit bigger, but this is a really good overall, cost-conscious fixed blade, and it's 80 CRV2 steel. And I will say the edge has not chipped or rolled one bit through beating this thing through steel, through wood. So yeah, very, very good on this particular one. I forget what the cost is. I want to say 100 and something ish, but it's nowhere near the DBK, the Bushcrafter, which is like a $400 knife. And last but not least, of course not, this is the Cold Steel AD10 full titanium DLC edition. It's It is fantastic. It is 9 ounces, so it's over a half a pound. It's a lot heavier than like even the copper Spyderco PM2, but this is definitely a little bit more of a kind of a harder use knife. And I do know that Cold Steel does a really good job. These are made in Taiwan with their DLC. It's cooked on really well. I do wish that these were polished, kind of like the old American Lawman was the first one I had that actually had a polished DLC. But you know what? In the modern day, I can understand why it's not. But yeah, this is the kind of limited special release blackened out one. 3V steel and full titanium handles. It's got the famous triad lock. It's just badassery. This literally, in terms of, this might be the last full black knife I get, just because it is, for my money, the king of badassery knives out there as far as folders. The only thing I could possibly think of is a Formax. Formax for me, I've done fold batoning and everything, is definitely a harder use knife than this one, but this, tough to argue. It's definitely in there. So the Cold Steel 8010 blackened knife. So whether it be a folder, there you are, whether it be a fixed blade. Normally, I literally only have, I think, 3 fixed blades that have any black or anything on them. I just prefer the stainless steel if it is stainless, or even carbon. That's fine. Again, going back to, do I like black knives? Yeah, they're definitely very kind of cool. There's a certain amount of, I won't say mysteriousness. There's just more subtlety to them because they kind of disappear in their surroundings. Not one that you want to be dropping out in the wild, and especially at night, you're not going to be able to find them. So not necessarily best for that, and that's possibly where this particular fixed blade might not be a strong point. Some orange handles or something along those lines would be a little bit better. But for whatever reason, I did, for my very, very first or very second knife, I did go ahead and just get the full blacked out Spyderco PM3 and carried it for, just off and on, alternating between this and the Kershaw Blur for 7 years before I kind of started getting into collecting. And yeah, what can I say? I like black knives and I cannot lie. So yeah, I hope this was interesting, if not useful. There's not going to be nothing useful about this. It might just be interesting. If it is, I appreciate the like and subscribe. Have a great day. Take care. Hello, everybody. Oh God, what the hell?